I just want to welcome you today to a very exciting presentation. This is something we've been working hard at here at Clarify, and we think it's going to be a really important topic here, edge computing for AI, as we move into the new year, and just looking out in terms of how AI is going to be deployed in in the near future. Joining me today, we've got Yuchin Fama, who is Dr. Yuchin Fama, who's the Director of AI Product here at Clarify. She's going to help answer some questions, and we certainly encourage questions. That's kind of the whole idea behind a live presentation, is that you do have us on the line here to directly answer any questions you have. Feel free to raise a hand. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, there's a little hand icon. You can click that to raise your hand. Or if you look at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, there's a little speech bubble where you can put questions into chat, and feel free to throw those in there at any point in the conversation. So Yuchin, how's it going? How you feeling there?
Doing great. Thank you. Nice weather, Connecticut, and excited about this webinar.
Yeah, we've got nice weather here in Colorado. Clarify's a global organization, and we're all over the United States and the rest of the world as well. So a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. We're just going to do a bit of a gentle introduction. This is a webinar targeted at a broad audience, kind of getting acquainted with what edge computing is all about. So we're going to take a look at the market impact we're expecting around this kind of technology, use cases where edge is already in demand, already is being deployed, and we're expecting further growth. We're going to then pop open the hood a bit to look at the pain points that are driving people towards an edge style deployment. Take a look at some technology trends, talk about our solution, which is Clarify Flare, and offer a little product demonstration and time for question and answers at the end as well. So let's start with this. What do we mean by edge computing? What is this all about? Well, currently, with the current paradigm, most AI is being done in the cloud. And this makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. When you do your computation in the cloud, you've got essentially access to a supercomputer that can scale easily, and you can reach your services anywhere you've got an internet connection. The cloud isn't going anywhere. But with Edge AI, we're taking the computation that had only existed in the cloud, and we're bringing it closer to where the data is actually created. And there's a number of reasons why we'd want to do this. But Edge AI can be, in the end, a cheaper, faster, more reliable, more practical, and more private solution than cloud computing in many cases. All right. A leading industry analyst is quoted as saying that by 2023, more than 50% of enterprise-generated data will be created and processed outside of the data center, or the cloud, as it's known. And so this is a major shift in how computing is done in general. And then there's lots of reasons why we expect this to be especially important in the world of AI. So let's take a look at some of these use cases where edge is in particularly strong demand. Strong demand, why? Because the return on investment is high, and there's significant efficiency and cost savings expected. One really broad topic where we're seeing lots of edge demand is in process improvements. Now, this is a pretty broad concept, but really it could be anything where there's an opportunity to use cognitive automation. In this case, we're talking about specifically images, largely, where we're looking at unstructured unstructured streams of video and image and audio data that can be used to increase process efficiency and service delivery and production outputs. And so by using edge solutions, processes can be automated. We're seeing demand in industrial manufacturing, retail and grocery, health service environments, and many other sectors of the economy. And again, so we'd be expecting accelerated production and improve process turnover rates that are going to have a direct impact on the bottom line. Physical safety and security is another major area where edge is in demand. And organizations are using AI to ensure that employees are following safety practices. We can set up a camera system that can automatically detect and alert workers to hazards, identify suspicious behavior, monitoring access to remote locations. The use of heavy machinery is also driving adoption of edge AI because of the danger and the impact of heavy machinery. And also there's a strong demand in retail as people try to address difficult topics like theft and to do that in a way that reduces shrinkage and improves customer experience. Another major category that we're seeing is in just regulatory compliance. And so this, with edge powered solutions, we're seeing that business operators are able to better enforce and supervise policies, equipment operation best practices, truck driving guidelines, food preparation protocols. With the COVID-19 pandemic that we've all been living through, there have been edge deployed solutions for monitoring people wearing face masks in the workplace and complying with social distancing policies as well. All right. So why are these particular use cases demanding edge AI? What is it about these use cases that makes edge an appropriate solution? What pain points are addressed? And then also what is happening in technology? What is becoming what technology is becoming mature that's enabling edge to be deployed successfully? Well, edge is helping the world overcome barriers to AI adoption broadly. So there are, even in this hyper-connected world that we're living in, there are many use cases where a lack of internet availability is a critical issue. There are many use cases where storage and data transfer costs become a major issue in deployment because huge amounts of data are generated at the edge. In cases where real-time insights are needed, by putting the computation closer to the source, the data source, it's possible to minimize latency or lag and make AI inference in real time or close to real time. And security and privacy concerns are also well addressed through edge deployments because you know exactly where your data lives. And there is a perception in cloud computing where you're using shared server infrastructure and that this doesn't feel like the most private way to store data. Whereas with the edge, you can store it right on device or on a server on location. And then the technology that is now maturing and making all of this possible. And it looks like we've got a question here from ACOT. So I'm just going to unmute you real quick here, if I can. Maybe you have to unmute yourself.
Hi there.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Hey, welcome.
Great, thanks. Yeah, my name's Ami. Hi. Quick question for you guys. So how dependent is edge AI or edge-based technology on the availability of 5G?
Well, it depends on the nature of your deployment, and we'll get into this in a little bit more detail.
Okay.
But with Edge, you can take the internet connection out of the equation entirely. And in many cases with an Edge deployment, that'll be the primary driver for wanting to deploy AI at the edge, is just because you don't have any, or you don't have a sufficiently strong internet connection, don't have sufficient bandwidth. So 5G, while it will play a part in many hybrid edge solutions for sure, and because it enables greater data transfer and all the benefits that come along with that. One of the reasons to go to the edge is because it takes your internet connection out of the picture entirely. So, okay, cool. Yeah, and so some of the technology that's making all of this possible, what's going on? Well, AI development platforms, of which Clarifai is definitely one, are getting much more sophisticated. And we're able to help companies deploy solutions without having their own in-house technical expertise, so that we're designing a solution that's with the business user in mind. Low code or no code is required in deploying these kind of solutions. Data-centric model development is another driver behind Edge AI. The idea here is that you want your AI really to be based on your data, as opposed to the data that might have been used to train some publicly available model. In many cases, you're going to need a more targeted solution that specializes in looking for and identifying the things that you care about. Auto ML, or just generally automated machine learning services, are another factor in all of this, making it much easier for people to choose the right algorithms and train up new models without significant technical expertise. And then algorithms are making all kinds of wonderful strides as well, where through neural network pruning and other techniques, algorithms can be built and then shrunk down to fit onto smaller devices, basically. So this is some very exciting stuff to us. And then the computational hardware that makes all this possible is also making great advances. So while the whole idea is that we're pushing compute to low power devices, these low power devices are actually getting much more powerful. So they're getting much more powerful and capable. New processors on the market. And additionally, there's a whole world of edge data centers in development now, where really sort of fully powered solutions can also be deployed at the edge. And also, just to mention, the improvement in wireless technologies would be an important factor in many deployments. Cameras are absolutely everywhere, as we all know. And cameras offer this endless stream of data about the world we live in that can be made into all kinds of wonderful products and solutions. And AI is there to help transform this unstructured stream of data into useful information. And so, of course, smartphones, cameras, security cameras, closed caption TV, drones, all popular ways to deploy cameras these days. All right, so there we go on that.
Can I interject for a second, Jeff?
Yeah, please.
I know earlier there was a question on our Edge offering and 5G. Obviously, a lot of our customers in the Edge, because they have very limited bandwidth and connectivities, and they want kind of a full air gap deployment. But also for customers who have async connection, where occasionally they do need to pull, say, some of the models from the cloud, or they need to sync some data back to the cloud. Not all the inference data, but selected inference data. Once the network is available, obviously with 5G, is much better data transfer than we can enable as well. But I think one of the motivation for customers to move their workload from cloud to the edge is because of limited bandwidth, and also for better kind of a cost and and ROIs and to kind of process the data locally. But obviously with the 5G and also all the other kind of a local network, a mesh network going on, we also want to kind of expand our offerings and with better integrated edge cloud solutions.
Cool. Hey, and everybody, is my screen frozen? It looks like it may be frozen on my, but
Yeah.
do you see the slides changing and that kind of thing?
Okay, you go. There you go. Now it's working.
Okay, we're working. Okay. All right. Well, then let's dive into what Clarifai's been doing about this. So Flare is our edge product, and this is our solution to bring real-world intelligence to your local devices. And with Flare, we're able to get AI where you need it. So you're able to deploy Flare, which is essentially Clarifai for the edge. Now you'll see that Flare intentionally doesn't include the full platform so that it can be a smaller deployment that can fit on local devices, but it also easily syncs up with the full Clarifai platform. Anyhow, so you're able to deploy it where you need it on the devices you need. You can deploy Flare on existing edge infrastructure, existing camera infrastructure, without having to invest in new infrastructure. This can be just added to your current setup. Flare is designed with video intelligence in mind. Now, one of the things that is implied by a lot of the use cases that we've looked at, but may not be totally obvious, is that really when it comes down to it, a lot of these edge use cases end up being for monitoring live video streams. So we have duly noted this and designed Flare with video intelligence in mind. And again, with Clarifai, the whole Clarifai platform is designed so that you can deploy AI without a ton of in-house technical expertise. That's the whole idea. We're taking care of the heavy lifting so that you can get right to your solution. And one of the things we're particularly proud of with Flare is one-touch device deployment, and then of course syncing with the Clarifai cloud. So one thing to keep in mind about edge, one way that it's different from cloud, is that edge lives on a piece of hardware. It lives on a local processor, and that specific processor takes it has to be the deployment has to be configured for that specific chip. Now, when you're talking about cloud, there is a massive infrastructure that already exists inside your browser technology and your operating system that takes care of the details of how one processor deals with a given request or deals with any and all computation. Whereas with edge deployments, you have to go on a processor by processor basis, and we've figured that out for you to make the deployment very easy. Data sync with Clarifai. So this is a huge differentiator that we offer. We already have this very mature AI platform that many of you are probably familiar with, and with data sync, you're able to push the parts of the AI pipeline that you need to your local devices, and then still access the full Clarifai platform. And this can be used for preparing data sets to train new models, actually training the new models, which is very computationally intensive, and you probably wouldn't want to do that on an edge device. We also offer a community which offers a huge marketplace of existing models, so you can kind of shop for new models, look for things that you might want to try on your devices, and then sync it up with your local deployment. And so we're just very excited to be able to offer that as a feature with our edge services. All right. We offer high accuracy edge optimized models that are ready to be used right out of the box. And they are designed for some of the most common use cases, people and vehicle detection, some first that come to mind. We can also edge optimize your custom models. Is that correct, Yuchen? Is that
someone is
right?
Can someone mute? Oh, sorry, here's my echo there.
Yeah, there might be a little muting issue there.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. It's a little tough for me to tell what's going on. One of my screens is frozen for some reason, so I'm kind of flying blind here. So just let me know.
You were on the slide deploy high accuracy edge optimized models.
Okay. Okay. So this is another.
There's a question. Can you deploy edge as a SaaS? So we could deploy our entire SaaS platform to a thick edge. What that means is like an on-premise kind of edge server. Obviously, you can't deploy the entire platform to a small embedded camera, and you may not need actually heavy lifting training and the search. That's why we have a special edge platform for the embedded device. But if you want to deploy the SaaS platform to edge, I would say it's almost like a laptop version that we can deploy, what we call a thick edge, like a laptop or edge server, but not like a small drones, or embedded camera. For those, we have specialized Flare platform, which is Platform Lite, that primarily focuses on inferencing for those edge solutions. Okay, so I think that question is from Michi. I'm sorry, I'm not good at pronouncing names. Okay, thank you.
Okay, great.
All right, back to you. Yeah.
Okay, great. The last major point that I wanted to make about how we've built Flare is that this is a composable solution, that you are going to be able to deploy Flare in a way that makes sense for your specific use case. There are going to be times when you're going to want to optimize your specific solution around specific problems that you might face, like you do not have any internet connection available at all, and that's really going to demand a certain type of edge deployment. Sometimes you're going to need to set up an active learning workflow where you're continually improving a model as you gather new data from your edge sensors, etc. So there's many different ways that these things can be configured, but on the right-hand side here, we've got a diagram that gives you a good sense of the building blocks that you're working with, where you can deploy Clarifai Flare and optionally sync to either the cloud or an on-premise deployed version of Clarifai's platform to access additional features here. And so with that, Yuchen, I think I'd like to hand the stage over to you to do a little demonstration of the technology that we've been talking about here.
Sure. There are also some questions I want to address as well. And then prior to this webinar, we'll also get some questions as well. So there's another question, what sort of a spec does on-prem hardware needs to have? That's a great question. We often get this question. So depending on what your workload looks like, we support both x86 and ARM. So in other words, if you have a beefier edge server or laptop, as long as it's Linux, it has NVIDIA GPU, we can deploy our entire SaaS platform on it if you need training, if you need to do labeling, if you need this end-to-end platform on-prem. Or oftentimes we see customers, they call it like an on-prem, but they say thinner edge on-prem. They just need inferencing, basically all the trainings, all the heavy lifting labeling, they want to do in the cloud, and then have that on-premise kind of a hardware for inferencing. This is where we can use our specialized Platform Lite, we call it, which is a very lightweight version of the SaaS platform that only does, say, decoding, inferencing piece, and you can leave the training and labeling cloud. And of course, we have the edge cloud integration. So yeah, again, as long as Linux and is Ubuntu, as long as it has NVIDIA GPU, we support both x86 and ARM architecture, and ARM particularly on Jetson Xavier devices. So hopefully that gives a kind of outline of the requirements. Of course, when we deployed it, everything is automated through Ansible Playbook. Basically, set up Docker, set up everything for you, the K3s, and they'll pull the Helm chart to deploy our platform. So that's how seamless it is. Any other questions? Want to give the audience? Feel free to unmute yourself, or you can type in our message. I know, Jeff, you also get some questions as well, and maybe I can address.
Yes, so.
Oh, and one question related to that is, sorry, never mind. I just sent a few people. Also, one question related to that is that how does the Edge Cloud integration work? So we have a resource syncing kind of add-on where very low touch configuration. Let's just say you finish all your labeling, training your model, you want to do the custom train, and then you want to kind of sync the model from your cloud to Edge. It's literally a couple lines of command and configuration of what type of model, what type of host, and you can just pull the model or update model from cloud to Edge. And on the other hand, if you want to send data back to the cloud from your Edge or on-prem, depending on your configurations, you can either send, say, low confidence data and then back to the cloud for labeling to improving model, or you want only send the kind of portion of the clips where you detect an event. Of course, you don't want to send the whole video back to the cloud. That defeats the purpose of Edge application. You only want to send, say, that little video clip where, say, action is detected plus minus X seconds, and send that little sample clip to the cloud. So we support resource syncing kind of between Edge and cloud in a very low touch way. There's another question from Jack. AWS Rekognition offers support for emotion recognition in the platform. Does Eric Clarifai support this? That's a great question. We have, I think, depending on the data, we have the sentiment emotion classification from text. So whether it's a binary positive, negative versus kind of multiple categories of, say, happy, sad, we have that sentiment classifier. But also we have a model for computer vision, what we call in Clarifai pre-trained model and their Clarifai main. If you happy to do a demo as well, there is a face sentiment workflow. Basically, it does face detection and then crop the face, then classify into different type of sentiments. I think it's 5 or 6 categories of angry or neutral or happy or etc. I don't remember on top of my head, but we do have that sentiment. Actually, we have a customer who were also interested in the face sentiment, so they can optimize a lot of their advertising business and media business as well. So we do offer that currently. And depending on your Edge deployment, what it looks like, I'm happy to have an in-depth discussion as well. So Jack, did that answer your question? You feel free to unmute and clarify. Okay, great. He said yes. So Jeff, you have a few questions on your side? Or?
Yeah, I do have some additional questions for you here that have come in. Well, there's a general question about can you use both pre-trained and custom models? Now, I think people are particularly concerned about this with Edge because so many Edge solutions to date have been pretty static, right? People deploy and they're kind of stuck with what they get. Is that that's not the case with us, though?
Right. Yeah. So the main benefit of working with Clarifai is that not only do we have over, I think with the marketplace, we have over 100 right now pre-trained models. And also a lot of them are Edge optimized. In other words, we handle all the quantization, pruning, compression. We have it lightweight enough to achieve really high latency, low latency, high throughput for some of the really resource constrained environments. So we do have a suite of Edge optimized model as pre-trained model. But the benefit of Clarifai is that oftentimes customers find the pre-trained model doesn't meet their business use case exactly. They need really the custom trained model based on their custom labels, etc. So that's where they can use our low-code and no-code platform. You can easily have just a few clicks and to build a transfer learn model. because we abstract away all the complexities where you only need to train the last 2 layers in your TransferLearn with, say, a couple dozen like labeled images, and you can have a custom train model in literally seconds or minutes at most. You can do that, or you can do your custom train with cloud with the complete neural network. So instead of transfer learning, you can train the entire graph from scratch, what we call the deep train models. And some of our customers, they do that, and they have the platform, the SaaS platform, doing the entire training, and then they deploy the model on the edge. And of course, oftentimes when you tune the models, it's a art, because you need to balance accuracy versus the speed. Sometimes you'd want a lighter weight of version of the model so that you can get high FPS, but it doesn't have to be that accurate. So we always have kind of professional services and field engineering people who very familiar and have expertise in this area to really help tune the model for our customers to make sure that we kind of achieve this maximum ROI for their applications.
All right. Hey, I'm frozen. I'm frozen again. Unfortunately, we're having some technical issues today, so I wouldn't be able to see any new questions coming in.
I see. Yeah. So do you want me to? Okay, I have one more on my end, and I can switch to a demo.
Yep.
This is often kind of the FAQ side of the business. So oftentimes customer asks, like, how many camera streams can I do? What type of FPS or a frame per second can you achieve? This often the questions we get. So in terms of frame per second, as I mentioned earlier, it really depends on your business use case. Oftentimes we see customers, if you have, say, a storage, you just want to make sure that you don't have empty shelf, or you want to monitor some PPE compliance where you don't need that real-time action, then lower FPS is fine, like 2 to 3 FPS, because store shelf, if it suddenly is empty, it's not like that millisecond you need to have actions. So 2 to 3 FPS is fine for those use cases. But on the other hand side of spectrum, when we deploy edge to public sectors, when you have military drones, you identify vehicles or any other target object, you want of course higher FPS and 20 to 30 or even higher, to make sure that you have that real-time action. So it really depends on the use cases. And we also have, for example, use cases where a sports stadium or any public places want to do people counting, queue length, and this type of thing doesn't need like 30 to 40 FPS, and usually 2 to 3 FPS is good enough to give you a sense on kind of a heat map of the crowd and how it looks like in terms of the queue length. So that's why it's a balancing act. And of course, how many FPS you can process also depends on what type of GPU you have. For some of the thicker edge, you can have, say, NVIDIA GPU V100, or for thinner edge that we deploy on Xavier, like Jetson devices like AGX and NX, they have a specific kind of GPUs as well. And also depends on the resolution. Of course, if you want to get higher FPS, you need to lower the resolution, and then you need to kind of have a lighter weight of the model, lighter weight architecture. And oftentimes, if you need tracking top of detection, that might also lower the FPS a little bit. So it really depends on the customer's applications, and we're happy to provide recommendations to tailor kind of your edge package based on your use cases. So that's a question I have. So if there are no other questions, I'm happy to do a demo. I think I went through all the questions in the chat. Any other questions? No? All right. So can I share the screen, Jeff?
Yes, please do. I'm frozen here, so.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead and push.
All right. Let me just share my screen. So I'll walk through a customer use case where we, for example, hypothetically, of course, it's not real customer data. This is our cloud platform and how you train the model, and I'll walk through how it looks like when you deploy it on edge. But basically, the story is we have a kind of a model that customer develop on our cloud platform, and this model will detect the person and vehicle. And this model was the original model, out of the box model, was our efficient DET architecture. So there's I would say, architecture popular a few years ago to have a pretty good detectors. So as you see, for this efficient DET model detector, actually, let me refresh it a little bit. Oh, there you go. Apologize. After refresh, now I think, there you go. You might see there's a lot of false positives. In this case, even like the luggage is identified as vehicle, although it does a pretty good job, detecting bicycles and from the persons, and there's a lot of false positives. So the story is, the benefit of having the edge cloud integration is you can improve the model, you can debug it, and have a newer version of the model. Let's just say in this case, YOLO 5. So we help customers usually, with better kind of architectures, and YOLO V5 is the latest and greatest and detector that also has pretty good, not only the accuracy, but also performance on edge as well. So this is YOLO 5 model. And as you see, it works a lot better. It doesn't detect, this luggage as false positives, and overall better performance. So when we deploy it on edge, and it depends on the edge device. And for example, when let me just share one quick video here. And this is where we deployed it on a Xavier AGX. Basically, that's the size of almost like, like the size of your hand, and it's just a really small edge device. And as you see, the frame rate is okay. You detect the person, vehicle pretty well. But again, this is not like an edge pruned, edge optimized model. So the frame rate may not be as good as we hope. But we can also do a lot of quantization, pruning, compression to get the model lightweight enough. And I'm going to share this one. This is a better version. As you see, you get much better kind of detection and tracking with much higher frame rate when you deploy it on the edge. And this is from a drone footage. And as you see, you work pretty well. So that's pretty much the demo I have here. I want to save some time for questions, because oftentimes these are kind of standard out-of-the-box model person vehicle detector. We also have, like, just a customer, I think earlier questions, what about, like, say, a face, emotion, and sentiment? We can do that as well, and this is just demo purposes. And maybe I'll just show really quick where that face model is. So if you actually go to the model mode, we have some pre-trained models here. And as you see, there is a face sentiment here. And actually, it's better actually use a workflow under Clarifai as well, because then it does number of things: detection, crop, sentiment. There you go. There's a face sentiment. It does like detection and also the cropping of the face, and classify sentiments as well. So for those who are interested, I think there is 5 to 6 emotion categories that we detect. That's pretty much the pre-trained models from here. I'll clarify. As you see there, that's the pre-trained workflow, but under pre-trained models, we have a lot here. And also you can build custom training. I think Jeff did some webinars before how you do a custom training as well. I'm not gonna repeat myself here, but you can also kind of use this local no-code platform to quickly build some custom models right here. This is a transfer learn, just basically put your model IDs and select your concept, click a button, and it should be able to do a quick transfer learn model in a few minutes or even seconds. And with that, I'll just give back the screen to you, Jeff.
All right.
A short demo. Yeah. But we want to save time for questions at the end. Usually, I think it's a 10.
Yes.
Yeah. 10 to
we certainly welcome questions. We are at time now, and it looks like I'm unfrozen here again. but we're certainly happy to answer any additional questions anybody has. In particular, we'd love to hear about what brought you to today's discussion. So have you already tried to deploy some sort of machine learning technology and run up against issues where you think Edge is a solution? Were you brought here by general curiosity about Edge because you've heard some buzz about it? I personally would be very interested to hear more about that. So if anybody wants to jump in. And if not, we are at time, so we can just wrap it right up. So
Great.
Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. It's been our pleasure to serve you, and I do hope that we can help you build the solution that you're trying to create. Thank you very much, Yuchen.
Thank you.